Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode on Hyperbolic Orbits podcast. Today, I'm extremely happy to have our guest because he is a great inspiration for us all in the space community. We have with us Tomas Ducai, who is a Molecular Biology MSc student at the University of Vienna and the world's first wheelchair-using analog parastronaut. As a board member of Community of Human Analog Space Missions and contributor to SGAC's Divinas long-term project within the Diversity and Gender Equality Project Group, he advocates for inclusion in space exploration through both science and storytelling. His work bridges lab research, analog missions, and public engagement to reimagine who space is for. Thanks so much, Thomas, for joining us here today.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very glad being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Then let's begin with our usual. We always want to know what our guests studied and how they ended up here.
Yeah, so brief introduction to myself. As you have wonderfully introduced myself, I am currently studying molecular biology in my master's, but I studied general biology with a focus on microbiology and genetics in my bachelor's, and my passion for biology, for life sciences, and for STEM in general has developed already in my high school, where I had really inspirational and great teachers, especially in the scientific subjects, where my passion for biology, but as well as for space, has been shaped. We had a very educative and very interesting elective subject called astronomy, which I have also completed and graduated in. So my passion for the sciences are rooted back then to high school, and I'm still trying to develop them not only academically but also outside of university.
That is wonderful. And so you do talk and work a lot on DEI in the space community. And it should never have been a nice to have, but luckily we are progressing in that field. So what has been your experience with the DEI in space exploration?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Diversity, equality, and inclusion initiatives have been close to my heart really ever since, and not only, but particularly also in the scientific and space sector. I got really into the different projects in the huge and important field of diversity, equality, and inclusion, where when I joined the wonderful organization for students and young professionals called SGAC, the Space Generation Advisory Council, which in fact has dedicated working group for diversity, equality, and inclusion projects in space sciences. So I was or still very lucky being in this project group, and I think that the diversity, equality, and inclusion aren't just terms, but have been and will even strongly be very important in all their aspects, not only in space sciences, but in society in general in the future.
Definitely, I totally agree with you. And so you have experience with analog missions. So could you tell us a little bit about how it was for you?
Yeah, this is also one aspect, so to say, which highlights some projects or initiatives within diversity, equality, and inclusion in the space sector. As myself, as I'm an active wheelchair user, have participated as a first wheelchair user in history in such an analog or simulated space mission. It's like an environment and a mission where people are trying to mimic on a scientific basis um, procedures and life in space. And these missions have different focal areas, so can be focused in different things. But one of them is certainly also the diversity, equality, and inclusion aspect, as the ISS is shared by different nations, with astronauts from different nations, but also the aspect of health is really important in space, as space travels, especially long space travels, tend to be quite risky for various reasons. And therefore, I think it's not just fair, but it's really also a strategy for the future to focus on the preparedness for or the inclusion and handling of people with certain, let's say, disabilities, to be prepared. And I've participated in such a mission. In fact, it's the only habitat for now worldwide which offers regularly missions with so-called analog para-astronauts, so analog astronauts with physical disability, where I have lived, so to say, 2 weeks on the simulated moon with 5 other crew members from 3 different continents, fulfilling different procedures of also a real space mission. So it was a really unique and really enriching experience and perspective, not only from the scientific point of view, but also from the social and especially the DEI point of view.
And it's so nice, every time I see analog astronauts go to habitat as a team, they either end up fighting or they end up becoming best friends. So which one was for you?
I think all together as a crew, we did very well. And there weren't any huge disputes. No one left the habitat before the official end of the mission. Still, there were some aspects where, like, communication is the key in general, and you have to be also aware of some cultural habits of other countries and other cultures. So this is really important to take in mind, and also be considerate about this, to not over exaggerate in one or other situation. It's not only important for really long-term mission, as I have met, for example, a couple of months ago, one of the analog astronauts who took part in the Mars 500 mission, which was one of the, or I think even the longest analog mission so far, where the people back then were isolated for 500 days in an analog habitat, which is over a year. It's almost 2 years. And this is a really long time. And you can't fake yourself for such a long time. Even like for 2 weeks, you get to know each other very well. And I think, especially in every mission, but especially for such long-term missions, but even for us for 2 weeks, communication and social skills were, I would say, the most important skills besides the scientific stuff that we had to do there. Otherwise, even some banalities could have had escalated very quickly.
When we hear that, in simulated habitats, when you eliminate the factors of space radiation and microgravity, So what is it you're really testing? I think we as humanity are growing a lot, are learning a lot about human space flight as we do analog missions. But usually we see that there is one part when there is a lot of focus on the EVA, extravehicular activity, where the dunning and doffing of spacesuits happen, and the analog astronauts go outside, do some robotic or other scientific experiments. And there is another spectrum of another side of the spectrum in analog missions, where a lot of experiments are done on the psychological aspects, so about the confinement. So could you explain how these kind of analog missions differ?
Yeah, you're actually touching on a really important point, and really important also difference in the setup of these missions, as there are habitats on the one hand, which are particularly in extreme areas, extreme environments on the Earth, like on deserts, on the ice, like in Antarctica. Or even in volcanoes on Iceland, for example, there have been missions taken place. And these missions are really strongly focused on the so-called simulated extravehicular activities, as the center of these missions is exactly the uniqueness of this extreme environment and simulating really the harsh conditions that are in space on the space objects, for example, on Moon or Mars or anywhere else, where also some geological research activities are often performed. But on the other hand, there are habitats that have as well some areas for extravehicular activities, but are mainly focusing on the psychological aspects of a mission, of procedures within a basement, like, for example, the psychological perspective of cohabitation within a basement or the ISS, which is equally important. And equally important, especially in the aspect of diversity, equality, and inclusion. Because if you include people, for example, with disabilities, like I was there, this is a new situation for everyone. And it's of particular interest how the crew cope with this kind of name it variation or variants of a situation. So these are the other types of analog missions focusing on these aspects, where there are also certainly also other limits. For example, in our mission, we haven't had any contact to the outside world, not only environmentally, like in the whole habitat, there weren't any windows. And we have been also like really shielded from the outside world, but also we haven't been able and allowed to use our phones or any social media. So we were really isolated and had also other restrictions. Like, for example, we weren't allowed to eat sugar during the 2-week mission or drink coffee. And we had also a limited amount of water, like not for drinking, but for regular use. We had for our 6-member crew for the 2 weeks, 2,000 liters of water. And we have been told if like the container where the water was stored drops, like the volume within the container drops below the 250 liters, the mission would already have been considered as failed. So we had to also come up with strategies how to also deal with the water consumption. And in fact, we're really good with it. We had, after a week, we had even days where we consumed less water altogether than astronauts on the ISS. So we were really proud. So you have to be creative, and also diversity enhance creativity, I am sure. So in this aspect, I think all the things, all the aspects come somehow together and reinforce the need for diversity, equality, and inclusion.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, imagine most people are addicted to sugar and caffeine now. I can't believe, and you used, oh my God, you lived under such constraints. So a pat on your back for that. But yes, you mentioned the Divinas team, and I would like to know more about your work in that team, because I've seen SGSE start different types of project groups from technical side, policy side, and now for them to deal with this part, diversity, OGL project group that it's doing, it's fantastic. So please tell us what you do in that group.
Yes, it's indeed a really great group, as I'm also not the stereotypical person being interested in space, like not only because of my wheelchair, but also I'm studying something from life sciences. So I'm not a technical person, but when I got interested in space, somehow someone has suggested me to look up for SGAC. And I was really, really glad to see that the Space Generation Advisory Council, which represents the youth and young professionals and their interest in front of also the United Nations, and contribute to the goals of the United Nations, and collaborate also with the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs, for example, that it has also project groups and working groups for not technical people. So I've applied to be part of OGL, which is the project group, as I mentioned, for diversity, equality, and inclusion. And I got a member. And yeah, what a fantastic group it is. And yeah, it's led by really, really dedicated people. And what makes it special that the founding team, I think, therefore, the group is so lively and really active. They all know each other in person. They're good friends. And I think this is really unique. And you really notice it even as a new member. So I was really quickly integrated into the team and the group. And there are, as you mentioned, several long-term projects, because like the field of diversity, equality, and inclusion, even in space, is really, really big. So I joined back then the sub-project, the long-term project, which is dealing with diversity and inclusion in astronaut or astronaut selections. So there we are focusing on doing research and investigating about, especially, as said, the diversity within astronaut selection processes, which is interesting, and as we can see, really still a lot to do. But things luckily are changing to the better, and even more and more initiatives are arising, which I'm really glad also to push and support them at least a little as being part of Divinas and OGL.
It's so lovely. The SGC in itself is a group for people who are listening and they don't know about SGC. It is a group for students and young professionals. So the members are all aged between 18 to 35. Beyond that, you become an alumnus. So it's so wonderful that DEI is not an easy topic to deal with in any industry. For space, it has been a very conflicted industry in many ways. Now it is opening up for everyone. And when we say everyone, often the first thought goes into, okay, we have to include every nation, which is true. We have to give everyone the opportunity to participate in exploration of space. However, dealing with people in general takes organizations many, many years and decades sometimes to come up with policies that will take care of the entire community of an organization. For SGSE members like yourself, I started this podcast with Dr. Yulia, and she's one of the co-founders of this project group. For people like you all to be carrying out this initiative within a volunteer organization, it's a huge, huge, I think, responsibility that you've taken up, which you're fulfilling very well, all of you. So I do want to congratulate this entire project group through you.
Thank you very much. I'm really, really happy to hear this. And indeed, it's true. And I think the aspect of diversity, equality, and inclusion in all of its aspects, I think this is a topic which is really important for especially our generation and the generation that is currently leading and being active in SGAC. And SGAC itself really also reflects this diversity, equality, and inclusion, as it has members from all over the globe and with from really different also academic backgrounds and also gender-wise. What I was really surprised, but in a positive way, and really, really lucky to see that I've just recently participated in the European Space Generation Workshop in Toulouse, which is the big workshop within SGAC for the European region. And I've just looked up, 60% of the organizing team were women, which is so great to see. And also from different nations. So this workshop was really, really enriching. And in fact, it like big parts of the organizing team were even now, or let's say maybe back then, rooted within the diversity and the gender equality project group, which I think has been also a big, big statement.
Sure, I agree with you. And Thomas, I do have a question for you. Since you belong to a background of life sciences, you're studying molecular biology now. A lot of questions I get is, I have not studied aerospace engineering, or I have not studied any engineering. So what is there in space for me? And mostly students ask this. So what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say just be curious and just try it. You can't lose anything. You can just gain. You can just gain a beautiful network, amazing opportunities which are out there. And even if you don't feel, I don't know, competent enough, just as I did for many of the positions I've applied to or opportunities I applied to, just try it. And I think the most important thing is really your enthusiasm for the thing you're doing and the curiosity. Yes, a little bit of knowledge is also important. Being talkative and having good communication skills also do help a lot. And then just network. And then somehow opportunities will come and grow organically, I would say. So do not lose hope. There is still something out there worth to explore, also by not stereotypical people from not stereotypical fields.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Space is probably the most global industry. I mean, we are going to outer space. Of course, we have to be global, but you're so right that you can come in from any background. There are so many different ways to get involved in space if you want to, and don't get overwhelmed. Like Thomas, I want to thank you so much. This has been so wonderful speaking to you. Do you have any last words before I let you go?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Last words. I think, yeah, it was also very wonderful for me being here. And yeah, just stay curious, and that's it, let's say.
Thank you, Thomas. This has been
Thank you.
wonderful. I want to ask everyone who is watching to please keep following this podcast on Spotify and subscribe to this channel on YouTube. I have tried to make this episodes much more consistent and frequent now, because there are so many different people like Thomas from different backgrounds, from different countries, educational background, work backgrounds, and there is so much to learn from each and every one of them. So I'll continue to bring exceptional guests like Thomas on this episode, and I want to thank you. And I wish you all the best. May you continue to work in DEI as well as life sciences in space.
Thank you very much. Thanks.